are using graphical mapping, then it is more accurate than coding.
No, it's not about accuracy. Accuracy is same in both, but you are partially right because it's low code, no code. Number one, I mean, graphical mapping is almost no code, right?
Mm.
But the thing is that today, as we see the topic, you'll notice that, let's say I create a graphical mapping, right? So if you know the basics of graphical mapping, then it will be very easy for you to understand. But if I write a Groovy script, even if you know a Groovy script, it is very difficult to, I mean, unless you have documented your Groovy with a lot of comments, it is very difficult for you to understand my code, right? Because you are a different
Mm.
developer, I'm a different developer. So that is why these new technologies with low code are getting popular now, because graphical mapping is easier to understand, and Groovy is, or any other coding language is just like, it will take slightly more time to understand, right? That's the reason.
Okay.
Okay, now let me share my screen and let's start. Let me know if you can see it.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, let me check if the recording is good. No, it seems like it's running fine. Okay, so uh, one of the main reasons that we use middlewares, right, is when we need a transformation, right? So let's say I have app A, right? I have an application A, and I have an application B, right? So application A, for example, let's say it is SAP ECC, and application B is let's say Conquer. Okay, so both are two different applications. They have different data formats. Like in SAP ECC, you have tables like Mara for material master, and KNA1 for customer master, LFA1 for vendor. Concur may have, like, some table, like it's for expense, right? So it can have a table called employee master, right? Uh, and in SAP, employees are typically stored as vendors also in LFA1. So, there'll be different field names from source and target. So obviously there's a need to map, right? And that is the one of the key features of any middleware, right? So what does message mapping helps us do is, it helps us map the source message to target message, right? So as the this definition also says, that message mapping in SAP Cloud Platform Integration is the process of transforming data from source structure to target structure. This is typically done using graphical mapping, Groovy mapping, or XSLT JavaScript for more complex transformations, right? So we'll see what are the use cases of these ones as well. Um, so what is the purpose of mapping? It is obviously to map fields between different systems and perform value transformations. For example, currency conversion, date formatting, right? My SAP tables, for example, store the date in by MMDD, and the target typically stores is like MMDD by, right? So those kind of changes. So all of that, the mapping is the functionality which SAP gives you. Okay. So what are the key elements of a mapping? It has one source structure, a target structure, which is typically in the form of XSD. XSD is a schema or structure for XML messages. Like I said previously, in CPI, the mapping happens in XML format. That is a native supported format by SAP, and that is the reason we need the structures of it, and the structure is in the form of XSDs. Now these days, so earlier days during PIPO when I used to do, then what we used to do is, let's say I have an XML message from source. I need a XSD, right? So I used to go to some free tools. Those are still existing. Like if you type on Google free XML to XSD converter, so you'll find some sites like Free Formatter. But now I can use ChatGPT also, right? It will also give me the corresponding XSD, right? So it's just that we have to validate if it has done its job correctly or not. So source structure, target structure, and mapping logic. Mapping logic is, of course, the rules to convert source to target. Now, just remind me, I'll also show you how you get the requirement or a mapping, something called as a mapping sheet in a typical project. So what is, I mean, these are the things that you should know, how to expect the requirement as well. Because sometimes what happens is, even the functional teams are not familiar with the working with interface, so they will not give you a mapping sheet, right? So you should know what to ask for. Okay, so mapping logic, then functions. So CPI provides standard functions like concatenate, substring, multiply, add, all the basic arithmetic operations and semantic operations it provides you. If there is something beyond it, then there is also an option of writing Groovy within a message mapping, right? So let's say there's a very complicated mapping for which there is no standard function fitting in well, right? So for those cases, you can use the Groovy within a CPI message mapping as a function. Okay. Now, what I plan to cover is, we'll see how much can we cover. Anyways, in the initial thing, I had planned 2 sessions for it. So let's see how much we can cover in message mapping. So today, in the first example, I will show you examples of how to do a direct mapping. Direct mapping means that I have a source field, I have a target field. For example, this is my first scenario. My source message is first name, last name, and country. My target message is full name and country code, right? So one is a direct mapping example where I'll map the country from source to target as it is, no change. It's just the field is changing. And the other one is the concatenation of first name and last name as full name, right? So that is my first example. Then the second example is we'll try to do a simple mathematical operation with a if condition within the mapping. So the scenario is that I have a source message for orders, which is having three fields: order ID, amount, and currency. And the target is order payload with order ID and amount in euro, right? So uh, the what we're trying to do here is if my currency is USD, because my target is euro, I need to multiply it by 0.92 to have the amount in euro. Right? So in the real life, obviously, it will not be that simple, but just trying to show you the basic operations first. Right? So if we are able to cover this on time, then we'll try some more functions. Like say, I'll try to show you. Um so this is a conditional mapping is already done. So we'll try to show the split thing as well today. If not, we'll cover it in next week. Then we have other concepts like looping. Uh, so this is a very important concept wherein you have let's say a list of items, right? You have an order and in that there are items, so you will not know how many items are there in an order, right? Because it is always dynamic. But in the target, you have a flat structure, right? Many applications outside of SAP do not support a hierarchical structure, right? So Informatica is one example. So they need everything in a flat structure. So you need to replicate the same, and it will be a scenario where you, let's say you have a header and a order with multiple items. So dynamically, you need to adjust the target structure. So that can also be done by mapping. So that is also what we will see. And in the same lines, as a consequence, we'll try to see the context handling. So context is also a very important concept. If you have worked with WebDyn Pro, you might have heard this term or seen this already. So when the source and the target structure have different levels, then context is used to point it to the correct node, and that's what we're going to see, right? And then we'll try to see a complex mapping as well. So this probably will be in the next session for sure. So before I begin with my first example, any questions so far? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Where is my C here? I'll show you the pre-made iFlow first, and then we'll try to create one together. So as I said before, this is the scenario that we're trying to achieve here. My source payload is this: first name, last name, and country, and target is an XML payload with full name, country code, and customer. Um, this is building on the last lesson where we used converters as well. So simple HTTPS endpoint, and I put JSON to XML converter. And since my target needs a header element and my source does not have one, I have added a customer root element, right? And then I have dragged the message mapping, right? In the message mapping, so from this button, basically you create a message mapping. I mean, when you create, it just automatically uh, asks you for a name, and this is the name that I gave, and that's how it is, right? So main thing is when I go inside this, I will have a source and a target. Now in it, I need to specify the structure, and that structure is specified in the form of a XSD, right? And you can also do it as a WSDL file as well, right? Um, so XSD is a true schema for XML. So XSD is nothing but it tells you the schema or a structure of a XML message, right? Just like in SAP, we create a table and then put data into it. Similarly, when you create a table, you specify, okay, what is the what are the fields, what are the source, what are the data type, what is the length of the data. The same thing here as well. So let me show you XSD as well, which I have uploaded here.
And after uploading that file, it got generated
Yeah, yeah,
customer to
yeah, yeah.
customer.
Yes, I'll show
Okay.
you it as well. I'm just explaining first, and then we'll do it together. Okay, so for
Okay.
example, this is the schema. Just trying to cover some basics first. So if you know it before, well and good. If you don't, so this is typically a XML schema, which is telling you uh, what are the various elements and what are the data types. So if it's string, typically string is does not come with a length because it comes with a standard string restrictions. There's no length restrictions here in the schema, and that's it, right? So this is how a XSD schema looks like. Right? Now what I've done is, so the header maps to headers of how many customers each of the customer will produce. Each of the source customer will produce one target element, and each of the so full name basically is a concatenation of these two, first name and last name. So here, if you see, all the functions are there, right? So arithmetic, boolean, constants, conversions, date, node functions, so all of these are there, right? So and country is one straight one-to-one mapping. Okay, now let me just run it once and show you. Okay, I think it got stuck. Let me reopen it. Okay, so we got the transformed payload with the full name concatenated. Now let's look at how. So we had the JSON, right? Remember, I was telling you. So now probably you will be able to understand and the importance of converters here. There will be many situations where, since in message mapping, maybe in future or it may already have outcome, but so far message mapping supports XML messages only. So since my source message was JSON, this I had to use this converter to convert it into XML. Okay, so this fits in my source structure of the message mapping, and in the message mapping, the transformations of the magic happened, and then it converted my payload to what I desire. Okay, so um, let's kind of repeat this. Okay, so I don't need a receiver, so let me just. So I'm a sender, which will be the postman. I define my endpoint, some demo, simple copy. Okay, so I'll use a JSON to XML converter, right? I know my structure, so I also know that I just need a customer root element on top of it, right? So this is my target message. Looking at it, I can add a customer root element, and then I can say message mapping. So this is the create. I was so obviously you can copy the mapping and paste it in your iflows as well. But for now, I need to create one. So I create it, and I'll just give it a name: customer to customer. Okay, this is typically a good practice to just name it with a source message to target message. I mean something similar, not exactly this, but in a way you're indicating that okay, what is my source and what is my target, and that's how I'm converting. Okay, now this comes as a empty screen. I click on add source message, and I've already pre-created the XSD. Right, you can create the XSD using ChatGPT or the free web tools, and I add my target message. Target customer. Which one is the correct? I think should be the correct one. Yeah, this is the correct one. Okay. So, see, even if you don't, one second. Okay. So first name. Now here, just pay attention. And country is also one to one. So I map country. Now, how about last name? So last name is I'll select full name and I'll drag here. So this is all drag and drop. Okay. So my last name came in here, and from the functions I will find for concat function. So I click on it. It gives me this sort of a palette. I will break the link, which is by default done by the standard, and I will just try to place it in a good length so that it is easier to see. So concat will give you two functions, string one and string two, which you want to concatenate. So obviously I want to concatenate first name with the last name. And delimiter string is like if I don't give any delimiter string, it will be like without any space. Obviously that will not look nice. So first name separated by a space and then the last name. So I'll just give a space here. Okay, I gave a space and then I'll correct the target to the full name. Okay, and country is obviously one to one. Okay. All right, I think we are done. Let me deploy to see if there are any errors. Okay, it started. Uh, okay. All right, I think we're good to fire it off. Awesome. So we got the result as expected. Okay.
Yeah.
One more thing I wanted to show you, which is very useful. Now, this is very simple, right? I didn't really need to test. I mean, test the mapping locally. But if you want to test the mapping locally, then what you can do is I have you can have a sample, like you can have an XML message like I had this in the postman. Just save it as an XML file, this one, and you can test it using this as well. So I'll click on simulate. I'll browse from here. I got my customer sample payload open. So if you see here, and if you want, like you can play around as well here. I'll show you in a bit, and then test, and it will show you if it is doing its job correctly. So j- without having to go through the trouble of going through separately and testing it outside, you can use this as well. Okay, let me see what it is saying. Customer full name q. Okay, let me see once. I think we have not changed anything. And sometimes it could be a cache issue as well. Okay, so since this is browser based, right? So not very often, but sometimes you will see problems where because of the cache itself. Hopefully it's not that this time. Let's see. All right, let me try to pick that again. First name, last name, country. Okay, it says cannot produce target element. Customer full name queue is not enough values in the context. Okay, 1 second. Let me. Oh, no. Okay, that's fine. Where is my customer payload? Oh, okay. I think okay. I think I got it. What is the issue? So basically, I think my the sample payload is not matching with the schema. If I just look at the schema, customer, yeah, I think it is expecting schema which fits in this, right? So let me try to take support from ChatGPT. Sample XML payload for the schema. Yeah, so we were missing this. Yeah, it should work. Let's see. All right, so let's save it in a notepad. Okay, so I think I wanted to show this separately, but it's good that we face that problem, and now you're able to see how we can not access this system, how we can use ChatGPT to make life a lot easier. Okay. All right, so uh, okay, now how this is even good is that you can maybe this is editable sort of field, so you can try it out, add some things and see. Let's say there are sometimes issues with special characters, right? So you can see if removing them or adding them is causing any issue in the mapping. So message mapping can be as complex it can get, right? So you will see when you actually work on some complex scenarios that uh, sometimes it's very difficult to debug. So these are the tools which can help us make it slightly easier, right? So that's why I just wanted to show you that you have this simulate feature. Okay. um, all right. And also, I think you might have noticed, maybe it is a bit early now, but still, it is a feature wherein, see, right now we're using very, very simple scenarios, right? Small payload. Sometimes there are scenarios where if you fire a payload, let's say you are creating some entity into ECC, like an SAP system. So sometimes you cannot generate the data again and again because your data is provided by functional consultant, right? So that kind of restriction is there. So in those cases, if you want to test your iFlow, you can do that locally as well. Example here, I just did that, right? So if you click anywhere on the pipeline, this is like a pipeline, you have these icons, right? Technical information start, simulation start, and simulation end. So I'll just click on simulation start, and I'll click here and press simulation end. And if you click on the simulation start, it will give you an option to input the body, right? Because obviously you need a payload to process, but you don't want to send it from outside, right? So, like previous case, right? In this case, I can just paste the same body that I am using in my Postman here. It's okay. And then this is the play button, and this is the cancel simulation, a clear simulation button, right? So if I click on run simulation, so it will just do a simulation, I mean, kind of actual run, but which is controlled, right? It will be only running between start and end. So if there is an error during this run, it will show these envelopes as red, like it happened previously. If not, then it will be blue envelopes, and the endpoint will be green. So if I go to this simulation endpoint now, okay, yeah. So this message payload, not the simulation endpoint actually, message payload, it will show me the payload, right? So this is not going outside of the CPI system. This is staying within the CPI system, and you'll see a lot of points where third party is a bit sensitive. We don't want to send them messages, so these techniques can be used in those scenarios. All right. So as expected, this took a lot of time. Any questions so far?
Nothing from my side.
Okay. I think let me take the other one. Okay, so in this mapping, I've tried to show the if condition with a mathematical operation. So as I said before, the scenario is where is my scenario here? So my scenario is I have a source with the order payload, which has order ID, amount, and currency, and my target as um, order ID and the amount in euro. That's it. Right. So we'll check if the currency is USD. We'll multiply the amount by 0.92 as a rate of conversion and arrive at the target amount in euro. So this will show us the if condition and the mathematical operations. Okay, same thing, nothing fancy here. I just use a JSON to XML converter. In this case, the header is order, so pretty simple, out of the box, no magic here. In the message mapping. Okay, let me now show you the message mapping. Let's go to the edit mode. Okay, so again, same order ID is one-to-one mapping. No transformation there. This is a condition, right? So let me show you. So this is again simple condition. Let's see how we are achieving this, right? So my condition was that if my currency is USD, then do this, right? So this is the condition. So typically in a programming language, I would write it like this, right? And nursing will be able to relate it very easily. So if let's say URR is equal to USD, I'll just put curly braces and a curly braces, and then I'll just simply say amount is equal to, sorry, amount EUR is equal to amount into 0.92, right? So this is simple conditions are way simpler, right? And this, so if it would be groovy, it will be maximum 2 3 lines groovy, right? And so you have to just, why I'm putting a stress on it, because at least for me it was a bit difficult in the beginning to comprehend how I will do it. Doing it is the easy part, but how will you do it, right? So now you don't start with if condition, right? You typically, you put a if condition, but then you have to make out the components of it, right? So if you want to say if currency is equal to USD, you have to do it like this. You have to take a equals operation here, equals string, put it here. Then it will show you two parts of it. What is my string one and what is my string two, which you want to compare. So equals is like a comparison, right? And then it is connecting to condition. So if true value, false value, and condition. So true value is if by default, and false value is if else condition, right? So if condition is if USD equals currency by this, then my amount is multiplied by 0.92, right? And what if it's not the case? Then I will simply let me put it here so that it's much clearer. So amount is being connected to this as well, and this false condition as well. Because if USD is not there, I don't want to do this if sorry, I don't want to do this multiplication in that case, right? So that is my whole scenario. So we used if as an operator here, which is a Boolean function. Then I used a multiply, and then I used the comparison function, which is equals. Okay. Right. Now let's try to run this. Uh, where is my mapping? Have I ran it? Oh, it looks like it's not run so far. Okay, no problem. Okay, what is my payload here? Okay, good. I've got an error. Let's see what is that. Okay, so the message mapping gives me an error. Uh, 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 Most likely it is due to the schema mismatch. Let's see. Hmm. Okay. Uh, okay, let me do it the other way around. Uh, January. Okay, so got a new XSD schema. Source order sc2 dot xsd. Yes, I want to replace it. Okay, I have to do a remapping because the fields got changed. So these I want to delete. Okay, now uh, what I can also do is I can copy this expression. Okay, and then now I need to replace the amount field. Okay, okay, if condition is this, okay, looks good. Let's see. Oops, what is that error? Oh, I did not map order ID. Okay, should be good now. Okay, looks good. Let me fire. All right, so you can see the amount multiplication or the conversion to euro has happened successfully. Good that the error also came. As long as it is fixable, it is good for the class because then we can see what problems we can encounter. So and then so one downside to message mapping with SAP is if you can see the errors that you will get are not that straightforward. So it gave me the error that the target is not getting produced and the queue is not. So it is very very confusing often, right? So but just try to see. We have to follow certain steps. So the number one step is that we need to see if my source message, which is reaching the message mapping, is having the correct XSD as well or not, right? So probably what happened is because I've not tested it before as well. So after the conversion and the schema that I used earlier from ChatGPT were not matching, and that's why. So what does the error mean? Let me actually. It will be actually a good for you to understand. So if you see the error says internal server record cannot produce target element, right? Q is not enough values in the context. Target XSD requires a value for this element, but the target field mapping does not produce one. Probably it is also giving a hint in the end. Probably the XML instance is not valid to source XSD or the target field mapping does not fulfill the requirement of the XSD. So in a nutshell, what is the error? Any guesses? Like, can you tell me what does this error? What do you understand now that you have seen the issue? But in general, does this message tells you anything? So it says
Related to something. Yeah, right.
target cannot produce target element. So why is that an issue? Probably we did not cover it as well. So let me show you why that is issue. Okay, because can you see this occurrence both in the source and the target? So this occurrence is specifying the properties. Okay, so it says that uh, I need this element. Minimum occurrence is one, maximum is also one, right? It could be 0 to 1, 1 to n, 0 to n, right? So if it is starting with 0, and if in that case your mapping is not producing the target element, it will not fail. And this is often sometimes how we resolve errors in real-time production issues as well, not production issues, real-time project issues as well, right? So the schema, as I was telling, tells you about the structure, right? And then also the semantic properties. So if I look at the schema,